Yes.
Oh, there's one more gentleman, Mr. Monco. Right? There he is.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann. Nice to meet you.
Did we get the same questions?
I didn't get any question. I told Karen that you don't have to ask me anything. Just sit and listen.
Do you folks want to introduce yourselves, or do you want me to introduce you? What do you prefer? Let you introduce yourselves? Okay, all right. Sandy, would you rather I introduce you?
That's fine.
Okay.
Are we all ready to go?
We're all sitting here. We all got our questions.
It's 5 minutes early, but
Oh, well, we can wait till...
we can get started if that's okay.
Yeah, let's
You're in
get started.
charge. I'll just do what you told me.
Everyone's
Chuck kind of got us corralled up here. Why don't we get started now? That gives us a little more flexibility.
You guys are sitting up here. Sounds great. We're going to have a discussion on that.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. I hope you had a restful evening after that challenging competition last night. We have the Nobel Laureate Board working on the winning decision from the STEM trivia routing last night, and that will be announced a little bit later today. It's my pleasure, distinct pleasure, to introduce Karen Dykman from SUNY Oswego, who is chairing the plenary panel. She is an expert in technology and just a wonderful addition to our STEM team. And I want to thank the presenters today, the plenary panel themselves, for being here. And without further ado, Karen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here so bright and early. I have asked my panelists to introduce themselves, so I will let them do that, and they can give you a little perspective of where they fit into this whole STEM scheme.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Straighton. Can everyone hear okay? Okay, great. And I am currently here sort of with my math hat on because my role in school is as a math interventionist, and I'm currently the president of AMTNS, the Association of Math Teachers of New York State. So I have a little extra math hat on, but also my master's work and my early work was in STEM. I was part of the MSTE project back in 1999 and such. So it's exciting to see all the pieces come together in a new way.
Fabulous. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Anurag Purwar, and I'm from Stony Brook University, which is also one of the SUNY campuses. And here we are on a SUNY campus. I've never been here before. It's exciting. I'm a faculty member in mechanical engineering at Stony Brook, and I work in machine design area, primarily focusing on bringing together machine learning and machine design kinematics for designing robots. And some of the things that I've done as part of my research, as part of my teaching, have led to some STEM intervention, not all by design, I'll tell you. Some of them were pretty accidental. And I don't know how I landed in this conference. Hopefully I'll have a chance to talk a little bit about the kind of work we've done for students at Stony Brook and for other SUNY campuses, students, as well as in K-12 space.
Hi, I'm Steve Mocco. I'm from Buffalo State. I'm the chair of the Career, Technical, and Science Education Department. And I think it's been a few years, almost 10 maybe, since I was last at one of these STEM conferences. So it's good to be back.
My name is Tracy Young. I am a STEAM specialist in Little Falls, New York. So I teach the Engineering by Design program for K through 5. This is a newer position for me. In my former life, I was a first grade teacher that was adventurous. So they kind of plopped this in my lap and I took it and ran with it. And I am a big member of ITEA and president of the Elementary STEM Council.
Hi, I'm Sandra George. I teach at a high school outside of Buffalo, New York, and I teach college physics. It's a dual credit through ECC, and I also teach nanotechnology
which is dual credit through NCCC, and I am very involved in STANIS, the Science Teachers Association in New York State. This is my first conference, so I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you so much, all of you. Glad you're here. As you all saw on the program, the theme this year is growing opportunities in changing environments. And we're all here representing in some capacity an enthusiasm for and a recognition for the importance of STEM from pre-K through careers. And all of our panelists have a different position and perspective on that. So I've formulated several questions which talk about increasing our capacity for STEM, and whether that is within a school, within an individual student, within a workforce program, within industry, we can think about increasing capacity for STEM very, very broadly. So my first question for the panel, and we have 5 questions, and not everybody is going to speak on every question, but they're certainly welcome to chime in if what someone else says gives you another idea. Please feel free to chime in. And then we'll have time for questions at the end, so if something sparks a thought in you, if you would write it down in your little portfolio there and save it for the end, that would be super helpful. I want everyone's questions to be answered. Okay. So the first question for today is, can you describe a particularly innovative or effective strategy, either within or across your fields, that has shown to either improve others' perceptions of the value of STEM education or increase the capacity and reach of STEM education? Marianne, would you like to go
Sure.
first?
So in the last 2 years, our school district has participated in the Smart Start grant, and I've actually seen a really big difference in the perceptions of teachers. We do have an Enrichment for All program that cycles through all the grade levels, making sure students have engineering and technology experiences as part of STEM. But through the Smart Start, teachers were developing their own integrations, things that would use the STEM principles and engineering and technology principles, but to support their work. So for instance, as a math interventionist, we have students that have specific standards in math that they have gaps in, and we were able to use the BBOT on a number line and actually have the students doing early coding and also really target the gaps that they had and the things that they were trying to do better at, which was not part of the other types of STEM experiences they've had. And so what we found was across the different teachers, their perceptions have really grown to incorporate STEM because they found a project to create with colleagues that fit their own needs rather than just a program that they were implementing that was created by other people that they were sort of partnering with. So that's been a really big shift in what I see as teachers using technology and bringing it out themselves rather than just waiting for someone else to come in and pull it out and use it in their classroom.
Perfect. Would you give a little bit more thorough description of the BBOT, how it was
sure.
used on the number line so folks could...
Sure.
I thought it was really innovative.
There's actually 2 projects that for me were really powerful. That with the BBOT, we have students in kindergarten and first grade where they don't have one-to-one correspondence, or they might also not be able to add, let's say they're doing 5 plus 2. A lot of young students, when they do 5 plus 2, will say 5, 6, and they think the answer is 6. But when you put a BBOT on the number line, you're placing it on the 5, you actually make the connection that plus 2 is moving 2 spaces. So there's this very quick aha that students have on their own because fundamentally the mathematical concepts are built into, they're embedded in the constraints of the project that they're working on while they're doing all of the investigation themselves, trying to use that. And then in the 4th grade, we've been using ProBots, which are the grown-up version where you can code the rotation as well as the distance it travels. And we had 4th grade teachers that we used it for angle measurement. We used it for attributes of shapes because you can draw with it. We used it for partial products of area, the area model, because they actually drew the rectangles and then filled it with our centimeter blocks. And when the students took the state test, 2 teachers ran down the hall and they said, we know we're not allowed to talk about the state test, but did you see the first 4 questions? Because if students had participated in this work we had done with the robots, they actually had experienced things that would make sense, and they could access the math-only math state test because it was so aligned with an application of those exact standards.
Sandra?
Oh. So in our primary grades at our school, well, I'm sorry, I'm the district STEAM leader for my district, K through 12. And in our primary grades, we set up what we call Explore Zones or maker spaces in the primary schools in conjunction with our libraries. So the kids are able to go there with their teachers and do BBOTs or whatever.
Other box.
Yeah. So they do spirographs, Lincoln logs, so the kids actually get to build and explore, and they have fun while they're learning. Unfortunately, during COVID, the administration decided to use that space for instructional purposes because of the distancing. But since then, the last couple of years, we're back up and running, and the kids love it. Like she said, the connections they make with the standards and the teachers have totally embraced the maker spaces. And the librarians are there to support the teachers with their lessons and such. One of the other things that I did when I became this district STEAM leader is I created a shared Google Drive that had hundreds and hundreds of STEM activities and resources that all of our district teachers can use and they access. I have an example would be Chris Wood's The Daily STEM newsletters. They come in Spanish. So our Spanish teachers are taking these newsletters and having the kids, translate up in the high schools. But it's all levels, and it's fantastic, and the teachers really embrace it.
Fabulous. Thank you, Sandra. Steve?
Well, I'm looking at the words innovative and effective. It might not feel innovative as I say it because we've probably heard it before, but in terms of effectiveness, I don't know that anything really beats out design as a pedagogy, design as the teacher's leading behavior with students. And if I reflect on graduate research that's been done at Buffalo State in the past 10 years, our most downloaded master's thesis is on project-based learning. It's still being downloaded at almost 1,000 hits per month with interest coming globally. And I hesitate on the word innovative. It must be innovative because it's so difficult to do. I mean, I can reflect on John Belt up at Oswego, who's spent at least what you might think of as a full lifetime promoting the use of design or teaching esoteric concepts within a context. Perhaps where it's innovative is the amount of courage that it takes for a teacher to fully engage in that in a classroom, to let the students choose what sort of problem they're going to solve and then go about solving it. And it does rely on a maker space being in place that students can actually create the thing that they conceive.
I'm a big believer in design thinking myself.
Can I build off of his?
Please.
So since we are elementary and we never had like a STEAM program in our school, I think it was more of an awareness. So I partnered with our Mohawk Valley Center for the Arts program where they had an art camp where some kids would go to an art camp, and my uncle was like, hey, my niece Tracy is doing something really cool in school. Maybe she could do one of our art camps, and it was like a 4-day camp. They were getting 3 or 4 students, and I ended up with 2 sessions in the morning, or 1 session in the morning, 1 session in the afternoon, and they filled right up with 29 students per session. So I do them over our winter break, I do them over our spring breaks, and everyone's like, when are you going to do another one? So I think it was just an awareness that younger kids can become engineers, they can become problem solvers. So I think that was a big thing for me, the perception of oh, it's, engineering, they're not going to be able to do it. And now, like, our community is all about it. So if you come to my session later on, I can show you my brand new room that came with that perception. I was in a regular classroom, but we went through a building project, and now I have like a multi-million-dollar STEAM lab for elementary students because of that perception that kids can do it.
I think changing perceptions and making people aware is really essential, because I think people do underestimate what little kids are capable of. So thank you for adding that on. Anyone else? No? Okay. So our second question today is, what is one important change currently occurring in your field, and what opportunities does it create to improve delivery of STEM education or increase STEM capability either within or across fields? Steve, would you like to start?
Ooh, I suppose this one gets lots of popular press as AI, or ChatGPT, and how useful it may or may not be. My first encounters with this was watching graduate students generate fair portions of their assignments using ChatGPT. And from a professor's standpoint, it stands out remarkably, because the grammar in ChatGPT is much better than my students' grammar. While technical aspects like grammar may be improved, what is generally absent from ChatGPT is a voice. That there are lots of words that associate with each other, rammed together in a sentence that has proper grammar. The paragraph won't have a topic sentence. There won't be a theme or a voice to what ChatGPT is generating. But it still appears that it could be a useful thing. So I've had 2 students attempt to generate the literature review of their theses using ChatGPT, and they both needed to do heavy rewrites on it. It just didn't quite work out. I also have students who are attempting to write objectives and lesson plans using ChatGPT. Also, it isn't really working. Well, I want to qualify for how it does and doesn't work. I've noticed a lot of students will, like they get writer's block. They stare at a blank page and they're stuck. And if they can use ChatGPT to generate something, now they're editing as opposed to creating. And it seems to assist their productivity in that way. But it definitely has its limits. It's reminding me of a different technology that was emerging about 30 years ago, and that was voice recognition software. And I despise typing so much, I can't explain the joy I had when I could speak and see words show up on the screen. And after using it for a few months, what I realized is it took me a lot longer to write if I was using voice recognition. The language I speak is not the language I write. I mean, I'd like to say I speak in good English, but when I look at it word by word on page, it kind of falls apart. And I would spend so much time editing that I found it was faster to just write it out. And we're watching to see how useful this utility might become. I expect we'll continue to experiment with it. So.
Thank you, Steve. Tracy?
Yep, and I'm going to go back to elementary because I really think that that's where we fell apart in our district. We had a lot of STEAM classes and lots of drones and stuff out up at our high school, but the kids were getting up there and they didn't have that knowledge or the base that they needed. So when we started, my superintendent really likes to promote things, so I do post a lot on social media. We have the news come in quite often when we're doing something really cool, and other school districts saw. So now when other school districts come to visit us and visit our STEAM lab, instead of me talking like, oh, this is what we do, I have my kids do it. They're like, this is what we're doing. Come and see my project. They are the voice of our program. They take pride in it. So I think that that was something that is, what we need to do is show the kids that they can take ownership of it. So they took ownership of my program, so they're like, are we having guests today? And the guests come in and somebody will be like, I want to take them. And they'll go right over and they will explain everything that they're doing. They will talk about their failures. And I think that this is an awareness that everybody else needs to know about too, that we don't have to be the ones showing it, that our students can. So I think that that's something that's changing in our district, and it's catching on because now I'm training other school districts locally buy us to do the engineering by design program as well.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I work in machine learning area, so Steve mentioned AI. So I'll say a couple of things about some of the problems that Tracy mentioned, we're facing in higher ed too. So everybody understands that AI is the name of the game now, right? Students need to be taught about it. More than the students, teachers need to be taught about it. Professors need to be taught about it. And I'm not talking about computer science professors, who of course, most of them are already in the field. Right? We're talking about non-computer science departments, majors. The question is, if I'm coming from, let's say, mechanical engineering department, how do we teach these things to mechanical engineering students who traditionally maybe have some background in programming, but not so much in algorithms, in probability and statistics? Yes, they take some math classes when they come into the college, but they really don't have that foundation to really just start doing AI. I mean, it's one thing to just download some source code from somewhere and run it and see it produces some results for you, but do you really understand the mechanism behind it? And it's a tough challenge because your curriculum is already jam-packed, as is in K-12, right? You're already worrying about meeting the learning outcomes and meeting the testing requirements and all that, and now you have this additional thing. But there's no doubt that this is something that we have to do. What happened with the scientific investigation research, what math did 100 years ago, what algorithms did to the computing, is what AI is going to do. Right? But the question is, what is the right way to teach AI to students, whether that's in K-12 or in the higher ed spaces? And I like to compare this with what robotics did to STEM education. I mean, you will remember that robotics was always meant to be an excuse, a platform to teach students STEM education, to provide them STEM education, to give them critical thinking skills, to prepare them for the future and all that, right? AI could do the same thing, but if you just teach AI the way it is being taught in computer science, students are not going to like it. Most of the teachers will not like it. So what we have been doing is we've been focusing more and more on edge computing. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with edge computing, but it's a way to basically do the computation with small microcontroller board, which are equipped with sensors, with actuators. And the idea is that you can collect the data from the real world. So as soon as you start collecting data from the real world, you're bringing a real world context. And students love that. I mean, students like robotics because there's a context, right? They're building something, they're designing something for maybe a real problem. So when you do edge computing, first of all, your computational demand goes down. You can run these things on your laptops. You're working with a smaller, inexpensive microcontroller board, and you are teaching them the basics of the AI, which includes probability and statistics, machine learning. But again, the goal is not that you are getting in depth into these things, giving them just a taste enough so that they can run with it. So at elementary level, you could demonstrate these things, right? You have edge computing devices, you build those tabletop projects, and you can say, look, I can collect the temperature data and I can analyze it and see what happens, or if I can predict what would happen in maybe in 20 minutes of time. Right? You get to the middle school level, maybe you introduce just enough programming to them, like drag and drop graphical programming that you introduce at middle school level. Then you get to high school. Now you can start offering something a little bit more deeper than what has been done before. So I think it's an exciting time for all of us because AI is here, and we need to be better prepared as to how to teach it to the students.
Thank you for adding that on. I appreciate it. When you say these little devices, are you talking about things like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and Makey-Makeys and things like that?
So except that Arduino and Makey-Makey will not qualify to do some of these things, you would still need to bring in something like Raspberry Pi or another microcontroller board that's dedicated to doing it. So there is a version of Arduino called Arduino BLE33, which actually comes with the sensors and is capable of doing edge computing.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. So our fourth question, with our continuing focus on increasing STEM problem-solving capabilities, where do you see untapped opportunities for collaboration between or among P-12, higher ed, workforce prep, professional associations, and public and private sector organizations? Sandy, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start. So in the last couple of years, our school district has been involved with the NASA Hunch program, which is students are trying to solve problems that are designed by NASA. Well, I mean, not designed. They're proposed by NASA for students to work on these problems. And they work in small teams, and the best projects are able to go to Houston to present their projects. The students in my district, at least, are so excited when they can't wait for the projects to come out. They're like, when are the projects coming out? I want to get involved. And now I have students actually coming, I don't even know these students, coming to say, I want to work on a project next year. We had 4 teams go to Houston, and that excited the community, and we had the news there, and the students, they shined. And our tech department is now getting involved, which, thank goodness, because the kids now are making posters of their projects and sharing in the community. We had a showcase, a STEM showcase, where the students, one student made a Wall-E robot. They 3D printed it, they coded it, and it actually works and talks and makes noises just like Wall-E. So they made a poster. Some kids made a Mario game, which, like a flat thing, or they threw and the thing moved, all on Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. And they're making posters and they're presenting to the community. And the community is coming and they're excited. One of the things, we have a local couple businesses, Moog. They're coming, they're bringing their engineers to talk to our students and say, and tweak and do this, and maybe you could do this. They're not giving them their answers, but they're guiding. And they're inviting the kids to the workforce and saying, this is what you can do if you continue. Another program that Moog has is the rocketry program. They run it out of Geneseo, but Moog supports students to teach rocketry, and the kids love rockets. I mean, the kids love NASA, and the kids love rockets. I mean, they go hand in hand. But one other thing about the NASA thing, when we went to Houston, the kids were amazed that NASA is more than just astronauts. There's a lot of jobs out there. There's a lot of things out there that they can do. And that opened up our eyes to a lot of things. But I think there's a lot of other opportunities, especially with the colleges. I think that the colleges could invite high school students to come and see experiments being done in the college. I think that would be, very useful. We don't have that equipment at our school. Cost prohibitive, especially like a scanning electron microscope. If we could see a real live demonstration and how to prepare things, I think the kids would be a lot more excited to enter these fields if they can kind of see it being done.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Your hunch activities and projects, are they done in class, out of class, as part of a enrichment?
So I have a robotics class. So we were doing, a lot of them were coding, so we were doing a lot of those in class. Kids worked on them after school. Not really an enrichment, but my college physics kids saw these projects being done, and they were like, oh yes, I want to do that next year. So they're my room is a disaster. So there's like 5 different projects going on, plus my regular class, lab work. But they're like, hey, what are they doing here? So it opens up their eyes to say, hey, I can do that too. So they get excited.
Thank you. Go ahead. Tracy?
Yep. So I'm going to build off of yours because you were talking about the colleges, having high school students go to colleges to see this, but I actually bring my elementary students. So we have 4 local colleges within 30 minutes of us, and I will take 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade, one class at a time on a college road trip. That's what we're calling them. So it's myself and our curriculum specialist, who I've been teaching with for years and years, and we take the kids, and it's not just like a standalone, like, hey, we're going to a college for a tour. It's an enrichment of my engineering program. So I have collaborated with the professors to teach something on their campus by them with us, 20 kids max with 2 teachers and like 2 professors, but then some college students. And it's just building on our program. So in 2nd grade, we'll go to SUNY Poly, and we're learning all about biomimicry. So we're going there, we're learning about animals and how things are spread and pollination. 3rd grade, we're learning about natural hazards. So when we go to the Utica University campus, we're learning about textiles and waterproofing, and it goes right back to what we're doing in the classroom. And it's amazing when the kids come back and I'm like, well, why are you using that? And they're like, well, remember when we were at Utica, this was one of the waterproofing things that we used. And then we all make a tie-dye t-shirt in the school colors and they all wear them. 4th grade, we go to Herkimer College, and we're in their technology lab, we're in their science lab, we're in their physics lab, doing everything that we do when we're learning about solar power and off the grid. And then in 5th grade, we go to Mohawk Valley Community College, and they're in their fab lab. So they're using SolidWorks, they're doing 3D printing, and it's all stuff that they can do when they come back for their grand challenge for the Engineering by Design program. So everything that we're doing, we're showing them all of these different things, and we're a very low population school, so some of these kids might not ever step foot on a campus, but we're giving them that opportunity that's out there. And with 4 colleges right there, and they're all free road trips, like free college road trips. One of them, they even feed us in the cafeteria. We go through the line, and college kids are high-fiving them. It's just showing them what's out there. So, and it's been absolutely great. It's like one of our favorite things to do. And then we also, we have gone to the Air Force Research Lab in Rome in the past, and we're hopefully, I'm starting that up next week. I have a meeting, so hopefully we'll go there. But when we did go there, the kids saw the engineering notebooks that I do in my classroom, and they're like, Mrs. Young, we have engineering notebooks. They have it just like we do. So they made that connection, like, this is why we're doing it in the classroom, because this is what they could do in the future. And it's all right within our area. So just kind of using your resources to make those collaborations.
I love that you're able to take your elementary kids to college and
It's
do it in
so
a
great.
structured way. I've had some Boy Scout and Girl Scout kids come to my lab, and we do a little demo for them. They do some hands-on thing. Well, I think we all agree that there are a lot of opportunities for K-12 and higher ed and community organizations and businesses to come together to do wonderful things for our kids. And I want to offer 2 specific ideas here, which could be potentially implemented right away. But before that, I want to offer some context, basically, for what I'm about to say. So, Stony Brook is a Type 1 research school. Our focus is on doing academic research. Of course, we teach. We provide service as well. Those are the 3 pillars of an academic institution, as you would know. But there is a big dichotomy, when it comes to doing research, doing design, innovation, so producing technology which can be potentially patented and commercialized, and then teaching. So most of the faculty members, you talk to, they'll say, you know what, I do research, maybe I produce some good algorithm, maybe a MATLAB program, and I can take this to my classroom and integrate research with education, which if you're not aware, National Science Foundation has a big focus on integrating research with education. In fact, most of the faculty members like me who write proposals to NSF or NIH, they want to have a separate section on how to integrate research with education. And believe it or not, most of the faculty members, they talk about integration of their research with K-12 education, not with undergrad, because that's kind of expected of us, right? We're teaching undergrad, so we should be doing that as part of our job responsibility. Of course, maybe not many K-12 schools actually know about this, right? So there is big dichotomy. We do research, we do design innovation, and maybe we'll take some of that into our teaching, right? But one of the big questions I had in my mind was, why can't it be the other way? Right? Can the innovation, can the research outcomes be produced from teaching? And I don't mean engineering education kind of research, which I think maybe you do, Karen, in School of Education. And there are quite a few programs around the country where there's a big focus on engineering education research, right? And I don't call myself engineering educator, researcher as such, although I do publish papers in conferences like ASEE, and I go to ITEA, which Teresa, you talked about. Um, so one of the things that happened in my case was that I was teaching this class called Freshman Design Innovation, and I had a need for the students to learn how to design things, right? I'm talking about electromechanical systems. How do you design robots that move in a certain way, right? And I don't mean, okay, I have a manual from Lego or Wex, and I'm just going to follow the instructions, put everything together, and then spend all my time doing the program, right? How do we put the circuits together? But again, I'm not talking about plugging in the wires and connectors and seeing things work. Do I really understand how much voltage is required for my motors to move? Most of the students don't. So my big focus was, being the class was called Freshman Design Innovation, to teach them the design process. And in the context of that class, again, it was all pretty accidental. I ended up creating a robot kit, and then the schools got interested, and I'm talking about K through 12. They started calling me, can we use your kit? And what did I know about K through 12? Nothing. So we went back to NSF, and NSF has this beautiful program called Innovation Core, where they said that, well, we're going to give you a little bit of money to travel around the country and talk to the teachers. So we interviewed close to 200 teachers, assistant superintendent of curriculum, and I tried to learn a little bit about what they do, what their problems are. And that project is, by the way, continuing. So if any of you are interested in talking to me, I'm here until tomorrow. And I still have to submit my final report. So whatever you say, I can add that to the report. So long story short, we got some funding from NSF to actually kind of, I wouldn't say scale it down, but make it more intuitive for younger kids. We're talking about elementary students, we're talking about middle school students, not just college students, kind of adapt it to their level. And through those grants, and we're talking about close to $1.5 million we received from National Science Foundation, we would also had an opportunity to work with teachers like yourself. And they have a program called RET, Research Experience for Teachers. And in fact, pretty much every research proposal that we write, if it is funded, these are supplemental funding that we can apply for to support a teacher on these grants. And we brought on board Murray, who's sitting right here, through that program. She was a teacher at that time at Franklin Square. She was leading the STEM program. We brought another teacher from Great Neck School District. We brought two PhD in science education who are also high school teachers. And we were able to work with them, and they made lesson plans that aligned with what we were doing, right? So there are opportunities for the teachers to kind of be involved with faculty research. So if you're a teacher and there is a college, there is a university around you, by all means contact whichever department, whichever major you're interested in, and say, look, I'm a teacher and I'm interested in learning more about your research. You can directly approach faculty member, and let me assure you, as much as you would be looking for them, they are looking for you too. Okay, so that's one specific suggestion I have for the teachers. The other is, Sandy mentioned something about the high school students. I get a lot of emails from high school students who want to do research in my lab. On average, I receive like 2 emails every day from some high school student somewhere, right? And it's not just New York State, it's not just Long Island, it's all over the country. And what do I tell them? Nothing. Because I don't have the capacity to take all these high school students. Every once in a while, I'll take maybe 1 or 2, and only if they come highly recommended by their science teacher. But it's clear to me that when it comes to college education, when it comes to college admission, the students are looking more and more for these opportunities because the standardized testing scores are being less emphasized in the college admission process. So the students are looking to kind of diversify what they do. But I don't see any structured way to solve this problem. I mean, I feel for these students. I have a daughter, she's in middle school, she's going to go to high school soon. And I know she'll be in the same boat. So is there a way that we can solve this problem? Maybe NISTEM and other organizations will take a lead to create some sort of structured program so that high school students, the teachers, as well as the schools can work with the faculty members, maybe help them take these students in some way, in a structured way. Not like, okay, student himself or herself applies and might get lucky, but most of the time it's not.
Thank you. Any of you want to chime in with anything else? No? Okay. Our fourth question today is, what is one important change you foresee in your area, and what opportunities will it provide to improve or amplify the capacity or reach of STEM education, P through workforce and professions?
So I want to piggyback up on what you were saying in terms of those relationships already forming with colleges and teachers, and that idea of building out of of real need or real challenges, because that's one of the things I've noticed as a difference in my Smart Start experience versus some of my MSTE project earlier on 25 years ago. I loved my MSTE project. I wish that had continued. But having the last 2 years, teachers participating in this project where they are going to design what the final project will be when it comes to how STEM will be integrated into their classroom, has elevated both what those teachers foresee being possible, but also helped everyone across to even notice what could be. So for instance, we had a speech pathologist that participated in Smart Start, and she, with her challenge for her students was helping them. She was doing a lot of articulation, and your tongue has to move in a different placement to make each sound, right? She had this expertise around tongue placement to make sounds. In her collaborations through the Smart Start grant, she was able to then work on some engineering design and some robotics pieces that she worked with the students then to have the robot mimic what their tongue was doing. So a third grader has to use a mirror to see their tongue, and they can't quite get the whole image right in their mind because it's in their mouth and they're moving at the same time. But they were then able to replicate it, and they would make the sound, and then when they made the sound, they would make the robot move like their tongue moved, and it would just make it come alive. That is not something anyone else in the team would have come up with if it wasn't that she was a part of this and knew not only the content knowledge of speech pathology, but what the problem her students were having that she wanted to help bring alive. And in the same way, each of us was able to find where the interaction supported the work that their student needed. It was a real problem-based way to even think about having teachers learn more about STEM and the STEM possibilities, because they came in with their own questions, or they came in with their own students in mind, with very specific standards for their grade level and content, and specific students in their room, and what they liked or didn't like, and how do we pull these together. And at the same time, they had college professors and colleagues who had expertise that they could bring together towards solving that problem. So I think it was, and then because we're doing it over 3 years, each cohort has built on previous cohorts. You know, a 4th grade teacher that's doing it this year said, "What did you do in 4th grade?" And they were like, "Oh, that's really cool," but then they took it and found a new problem that their class was having. So I think that is a real positive movement, because I think more teachers are excited, which is hard to do when you're an elementary teacher and everything is being, you know, you just feel like there's always a new standard, right, another layer, and it's just another thing, so where do you have the time? But this gives a way that you're, you know, looking at those computer science standards, digital fluency, as a solution to a problem you already had around another set of standards that you were already trying to you know, bring together and help students learn. So that, I think that's a promising, exciting piece of forward movement.
I would agree. I worked with elementary teachers when I was in K-12, and oh my God, please don't make me do something else. But then when you show them how integrating can make everything easier and better and faster and really actually deepen the understanding, it's like a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I can do this one thing and actually take 25 whole minutes, you know, and be pulling together a lot.
Yeah, so that's wonderful. Steve?
I'm going to take this a little bit sideways. There is, I suppose, an older tradition that of vocational education that runs parallel to some of the things in technology education. And we, perhaps the generations preceding us, have enforced silos or rather strict boundaries as to which disciplines are what and stay out of my discipline, and somehow it's like bad if we allow them to mix. And I think the heart of STEM is allowing those things to mix. CTE has very greatly from the traditions of vocational education. And work-based learning is among the things that's becoming far more popular at a national level, and popular also meaning becoming more funded, more opportunities to perform work-based learning within schools. This provides some unique opportunities for STEM. I think I've heard nearly everyone at the table say it's important to operate within the context. And placing a student in a work situation, they're in a context. And they get to see the immediate value and purpose of understanding particular concepts and principles. And CTE is becoming far more flexible than it has been in the past. It's not only a collection of who's the next welder, electrician, or plumber. New York State has over 80 CTE titles that now include things like theater and dance, because you can make a living at those things. The New Visions program, which started 1 year ago, Erie Bosse's and Buffalo State, now includes those in high school who think they might want to become a teacher. And CTE is now, at least at the high school level, helping students, if that is their career aspiration, to earn college credits and start to be taking those first steps to becoming a teacher. I think this trend is in its infancy. I think it's going to be continuing for quite some time.
Thank you. Would you like to add on?
Sure, yeah. This is an important question, right? Because when it comes to STEM education, there is only so much that is happening in the K-12 space, in a formal, structured way, right? But what is happening a lot is informal STEM learning, building these informal STEM learning environment where we can engage the students, where we can show them possibilities, because teachers are limited by the time and the capacity to do certain things. So I want to offer a couple of specific examples. We have, at Stony Brook University, we have a program called Manufacturing Technology Research Consortium. It's a NIST MEP program, and they have an educational outreach component to what they do. And they came to us almost like 5 years ago and said that we would like to offer a summer robotics program for middle to high school students. And we started doing that. We got like 30 students, fully paid. They didn't have to pay anything. MTRC sponsored it. These were students from primarily Long Island. And then COVID happened. Then we switched to doing these things online. We shipped out the robot kits to the students. And then after that, they said, well, we can make it nationwide. So we got students from California and Texas also to participate in that program. And then last year, Suffolk County Department of Labor contacted us, said that, well, we would like to offer a program similar to what you've been doing, but for the students who come from severely disadvantaged background, and we want to offer this program, keep them busy for the summer so they're off the street. And we said, sure. And we ran the program for 2 weeks last year, and it was okay. I won't say it was hugely successful because the students had very varied background. They came with their own challenges. And they came back to us and they said, well, this could work, but we would like to do it over a period of 6 weeks. And they came in at the beginning of this summer with us, and it was a challenge to deal with these students. But now we are in the 5th week, and these kids, we cannot get them out of the classroom because they're designing and building robots. They're learning about electronics. They're learning about microcontroller programming. They're learning about mechanical design. And they are so effective. And the idea is that through the workforce development, they will go and be absorbed by one of the companies in Long Island, right? So they'll be hired as a full-time intern or as a full-time employee, and they will work on one of these things. So I believe that informal STEM learning is the opportunity that we have, because there is only so much we can do in the classroom. And we have to take this and we have to implement it as much as we can. I do hear that there's quite a bit of funding available still, from the COVID time to do some of these things. So I think you guys are already doing everything that you should be doing, but more could be done for definitely a class of population that has never kind of realized the benefits of doing these things.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. What's that?
No, I just said that's great.
It is.
I'm
It's
excited.
wonderful. So our last question for this session is, if you could change one thing in your field or one of the other fields to improve or amplify our capability to develop adaptive, capable, and competent STEM problem solvers. What would that be? We'll start with Sandra.
Can I start with more funding? I think if we want our kids to be career and college ready, we need to provide them with more opportunities and experiences before they graduate from high school. I think it's important for students to create, and design and do all that great stuff. But if your school doesn't support it, it's hard to do it, especially if you're a physics teacher, trying to do everything in our district. I think staffing and equipment is hard to come by. We only have one tech teacher in our district. And it wasn't until 2 years ago when we got our first 3D printer. Now we have over 12 3D printers and a laser engraver, and our tech classes have exploded. We went from like one, I don't know what they call them, the first year where they're doing 3D printing. DDP. We went from one class, now we have 3 classes. And our tech teacher is overwhelmed. He's teaching 6+ classes a day, and we need more staffing. And our district is like, no, that's okay. Another thing I see is I teach 2 robotics classes as the overflow because our tech teacher can't teach them. We have the VEX robots and everything, but I do it on Raspberry Pis. So the kids design and create and make their own robots right from scratch and code and everything. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And our computer science department, I said, hey, I have all these Raspberry Pis. I know you're teaching Python, but do you want to have your kids do a project, using the Raspberry Pis? And they go, no, that's okay. And it's like, wait, we have a great opportunity to cross, to mix here. And they're like, no, that's all right. We do our thing, and you can do yours. I think that's sad. And it just, we need more support, I think, from administration to cross, like you said, the silos. We need to expand. Trying to give them more examples, but our administration is giving us more funding. Obviously, we got the more 3D printers, and we got our laser engravers. I think we got the laser engraver to make stuff for our school, like glasses and, rah-rah, things like that. For the business department to kind of blend in where we could market things. We had an administration change, and that all fell apart. So, we're trying, and we're pushing, and I'm, pushing along. But I think in Field of Dreams, they said, if you build it, they will come. And I think, we're building our program. The kids are excited. They're coming, and now we have to just make it go forward. So I think the funding is the major thing I would suggest changing.
I would second that.
Awareness.
One of my favorite phrases to use is, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And then, when you get that positive press in the news,
Yeah.
and when the community is coming in, or when a business is coming in, that helps
Yeah.
drag those recalcitrant or reluctant administrators along. And then when a parent says, hey, my kid didn't get into that class, why isn't there more? We got to build that pressure locally, grassroots. That'll. Steve?
I wonder if funding resources will be the common theme in everyone's response to this question. I'm after one really very specific thing on funding, and I can look around the room and see some faces who have engaged on this question before. For CTE, the Perkins funding from the federal government to New York State is large, and New York State blatantly violates the law. The Perkins funding says it recommends a portion be provided to universities for preparation of teachers. Now, CTE might sound like it's outside the realm of STEM. Maybe it's not a perfect Venn diagram of saying it's 100% match, but they certainly overlay each other. And I believe until NICEAD, USNE, I'm not sure exactly at what level of state government this occurs, but there is an old tradition that said, going back 40, 50 years, that SUNY was so well funded that they would never need any of that Perkins money to prepare teachers. From the decades ago when that proclamation was made, that's just not true anymore. We are facing a teacher shortage in part because of our capacity to produce teachers and the supports that we have to produce teachers. And if there was one thing I would change, I would beg for New York State to become compliant on the distribution of Perkins funds.
Thank you, Steve.
So I manage, I'm actually the site PI and the faculty director for the NSF I-Core program. It's an innovation program where we teach students, faculty, staff how to build startups. So we provide basic entrepreneurship training to them. And one thing that I teach is that if you build it, they will never come.
Oh, man, no.
Let me add something to that. If you just build it, they will never come because you need to identify what the value propositions are. Why would anybody care about what you're building? Okay, find that product market fit. Do the customer discovery. Talk to your customers. Right. That's exactly what I've been doing through this NSFI core grant, talking to the teachers. Really understand what their problems, what their challenges are. But that's an aside. So I want to say something about how do we create capable and competent STEM problem solvers. And my freshman design class, which is offered to freshman students across all College of Engineering, very large enrollment. At some point, I had 350 students in my class, and I used to give lectures in an auditorium before I put my foot down, and I told the department, I will not teach this class if I have 350 students. Then we restricted it to only College of Engineering, and now I have 150, which is a better number. Anyway, so that class got so popular that the schools in Long Island came to the ACE program, Accelerated College Education Program, and they said, we would like to teach this class in our high school, taught by their teachers. I just have to make sure that the teachers qualified to teach the class. And, I looked at the enrollment, and I looked at who's taking the classes, and there are like about 15, 20 students in high school who are taking this class. And how many students are graduating from high school? About a few thousand. And I said, there is something wrong with it. We have a high school graduating class of a few thousand, and there are about 15, 20 students who are doing this. So there's something we're not doing right? I mean, these are already self-selected students who are interested in robotics. They're going to learn these things one way or another. So if our goal was to bring more people interested in this, we have definitely failed. And I started working with teachers like Marie, and I was working with another teacher from Great Neck. And they were basically implementing our elementary program with the robot kit. And she said to me that, you need something simpler for the elementary students. And at first I said, I'm going to focus on my software, which is, for high school students, for college students, for industry practitioners, teaching them how to do robot design. And she said, no, trust me, this is what you need to do. And as the time progressed, I realized that actually she was right about it. What I realized was that if we really want to make a difference, we have to start very, very early. We have to start at elementary level. And we have to make sure that the students they self-perceive that they are somebody who can do this, right? It's not like it's hard, or it's not something that I should be doing, right? And I realized that, we need Taylor Swift's of STEM education. My daughter, she loves Taylor Swift. She's listening to her song all the time. And I realized how much impact she has on her, right, as to how she behaves and how she dresses up and what kind of song she sings and all that. And I see there are no role models like that for girls or for many other class of students who would say that, no, this is the kind of person I want to be. Right? Where are the role models for them? I think in the schools are so busy with getting students to learn XYZ things and helping them do better in the test that there's no time for that. I mean, Tracy she's exceptional when she says, I take my elementary students to colleges. How many teachers actually do that? And how many schools actually even allow teachers to do something like that? This teacher I was working with, I said, well, you did a great job with putting together the lesson plans and activity cards and things like that, and Murray might have a chance to present some of that today. And I said, well, you should go to ITA conference and present there. And she said, my school district will not allow me to go and present something. I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, I can go there and attend the sessions and listen, but if I'm going to present myself, they would not let me do this. It has to come on my own time. I was aghast. I'm like, how does that happen? Maybe it's not true everywhere else, but anyway, I think the bottom line is we need to start early. We need to start elementary, we need to start at early middle school level, and even then it won't be sufficient. We need to make sure that the students self-identify themselves as somebody who can be in the STEM and who can, do science, who can do engineering. And that's the only way we will actually build the capacity for our STEM workforce, which, is lacking. In 2018, Department of Labor said we have 2.4 million jobs that are empty. I mean, they're not being taken. And by next year, actually 2022, they said it'll be another 1 million jobs. So we have a need, but we don't have the students. So how do we get them more into the pipeline? Start early, that's it.
I second that. It actually makes me think of something else you said about having role models and people to look up to. And I'm going to put in a shameless plug for FIRST Robotics. Anybody familiar with that? Yeah, and they call it the Super Bowl of Smarts, and there's, mentors from outside, and they have programs from first grade up, and I know a lot of people do VEX, but I think FIRST has a much more impressive culture as far as cultivating student participation and student self-efficacy. Going to, one of the quotes from FIRST is, this is the sport where every student can go pro. So, and I think starting those kinds of things, there's not too many of the students in your class are going to be Taylor Swift, but a lot of the students in your class could go on and be STEM professionals beyond there. So I think the things that you're all doing about connecting colleges and elementary schools and starting early and doing things like that are very commendable. And the more people we can bring onto this bandwagon, the better.
Can I just say one more thing?
Please.
So I want my kids to be able to do the presentations and everything. So when I was sitting at the Oswego conference with Karen last year, and I said, I can come and I can present all this stuff and whatever. And I went back to my principal and superintendent. I said, wouldn't it be great if I could just take kids with me to the Oswego conference, and then I can sit back and they can present? He was like, absolutely, we'll get a bus and whatever. So we've already started looking at our classes and what projects and how far we'll be. So when I go to the Oswego conference, I'll be taking some kids with me. Well, the parents will be going as well, and they will be presenting my session instead of me doing it, because it's going to be much greater an impact to have teachers see, like, this is what the kids can do, and this is what they're doing. And some of these kids, we have 2 nonverbals, we have selective mutes, and they can still present. They write everything down, and they talk to another student, and then they present. So, I mean, right there is something that they can take pride in it. So I'm going to Oswego with some kids to present, so it's great.
I've found that as well. That people listen to students way more than they listen to us, because they think of us as being self-serving. You're only doing it to promote your own self, but when they see the kids engaged, it's even better. Chuck, am I allowed to take questions? Couple? Okay, go, run, 2, 3.
Preaching to the choir, because everything you say, we understand. For 36 years, I taught private and public schools. Never once did I have an administrator or superintendent who had any background in science, math, or technology. How do we encourage the administrators to encourage the guidance counselors to get the kids more influenced in STEM? Because talking to the students, the guidance counselors I always had pushed it away. How do we do this? Because talking to us is wonderful. Talking to administrators to change their mind, and I may be, but I've never had one that had a science background. How do we do this?
I say drag them kicking and screaming into your classroom, because that's what helped us. Like when we would have a contest, I would have the principal be one of the judges. When we had building cardboard chairs, our 300-pound principal was the test. You have to build a chair that is going to hold up, Mr. Davis kind of thing. And if you can get them in doing those kinds of fun things, and then they get in and I'll do the building, they see that generation of interest and skill and enthusiasm, I think that's helpful, but the rest of you can weigh. And we did the same thing with guidance counselors. We had the guidance counselors department meeting. It took a long time to get this, but we had it in our department as a tech and engineering classrooms, and we had students in each of our 6 labs, and the students took the guidance counselors through each lab to tell what the classes were and things like that, because guidance counselors don't always know, and they don't have an accurate perception, shall we say, all the time. And so when again, it takes a lot of work to get them there, but if you can get them there, I have found that it makes a huge difference.
So one of the statewide initiatives, I think that points to that, is that the New York State Master Teacher Program, they've added a guidance counselor layer, which most STEM teachers are kind of like, what? But I think it's for that reason, because the money talks, right? That might be a reason to come participate in Master Teacher, but then you see all the STEM possibilities, and the hope is that would change how invested guidance counselors could be in helping students to move that forward. So I hope that's going to make a difference.
Okay, Ned, and then.
Hopefully this wasn't already addressed, but one of the things that I see is that when it comes to going from, let's do it backwards, from career to K, we have to speed up talking about bringing in the new ideas. Because one of the things I'm thinking about is I'm looking at the robotics, I'm thinking about the Boston Dynamic robotics, and those little guys can just go forward and back as kids are doing at home. The stuff for ChatGPT, industry's already using it. Then I'm thinking about myself, quantum computing. Now all of a sudden all the computers got to go to quantum mechanics. I'm not even sure I even understand it, let alone, and they're already using it. So what's going to happen is that there's going to be a huge explosion. We got to stay relevant. So my question is, or my encouragement is, you got to speed up the process of incorporating these new ideas and getting them hooked at a younger age, because what's going to end up happening is the same thing that's happened with cybersecurity. The industry's teaching them. That's what's going to happen. They're going to just skip us, and I don't want to feel like lose my job.
And we got to stay one step ahead.
Sorry?
Stay one step ahead.
Well, yeah, but you got to do that with the kids.
Right.
Clark?
All the comments that I've listened to today point to one thing, and that is systemic change in how we run education. I've attended this conference for over 10 years. Do we have any members of the Board of Regents in here today? No?
I think in a minute.
How many representatives from the New York State Department of Education are here? Cool. Thank you.
And one just stepped out. It's cool.
Having worked for a Department of Education for a number of years at one point in my career, I know it's not always easy. You're the target of a lot of stuff. But the reality is, when it comes to STEM, systemic changes in STEM education, this is full of best practices by passionate people. These need to be, the things you see in here need to become a collaborative effort among all of the elements of STEM, as you folks have said. And we need leadership from the top levels of the Department of Education and the Board of Regents to support changes in school structure, changes in delivery methods, encouragement of collaboration, so that all the things we're here for can become reality in a systemic way. It can't just be one-ups and all of these, all these exemplary things. It needs to be systemic. So I know trying to move that is like trying to move an elephant, but we need to keep our eye on that goal as well and do whatever we can to influence the leadership so that we can have all of this kind of stuff, available for all of our
one last question with Marie because we're timed out here.
I'll keep it brief.
There we go.
Very compelling panel. And I'm going to piggyback really quick on what you said, because when I was here in 2005, as the start of my STEM teaching career, the esteemed plenary panel back then referred to what we're talking about now as a pipeline from K to 12. Now, I am very dismayed to hear that the new terminology is silos, which is a complete opposite of what the whole point should be. No silos. Break down those walls and be loud about it. It is a pipeline, and if we expect and want and desire STEM to continue to proceed as it should and grow into its full capacity, there has to be a pipeline. Now, one of the thoughts that Anurag brought up, which really triggered a thought, is that STEM hubs and the Board of Regents need to be in these conferences. They need to be here. They can't be in an ivory tower making decisions without understanding in minutia what the people who are grinding their noses on a daily basis trying to uphold this principle and these practices are actually going through. Johns Hopkins University has a fantastic, structured, organized plan of having high school students interested in biomedical fields and in medicine be mentored by college professors from the time they're sophomores or juniors. Why can't we do that as STEM professionals?
We need to look at that.
But it has to start somewhere, and it has to be a mindset. It has to be a mindset. We're all clearly on the same page, and we're all speaking in components that make sense. But as you said, collaboration and breaking down walls and being loud about our needs and adamant about it is really what's going to matter. I say we've been too polite. I'm sorry. We have been. We really have been. As academics, we tend to be polite. We tend to be very cerebral, but enough. Action. It starts in pre-K, it starts in kindergarten. Let's go. Let's be loud about this and really push for our needs. Because I've been coming to, I started in 2005, I'm still hearing the same problems. And that's not cool. Because although we made huge strides, huge, at the elementary level, it's still like, okay, it's a trend. No, it's not a trend. This is not a trend. This is what reality and this is what the future of our students are going to be. And yes, there are obstacles left and right, but you know, be like water and go around it, under it, over it, whatever it takes. So that's what I'm going to say. Thank you. So much to think about. So much to do, actually.
So much to do. Never a shortage of things to do. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Great job.
Wow, wow, wow. On behalf of the New York State STEM Education Collaborative, we are so fortunate to have such a diverse, knowledgeable, experienced, compassionate plenary panel. And we certainly want to show our appreciation for what this has been all about, this discussion. We have it recorded so we can go back and relive the great comments that have come from the panel, also from our folks out in the audience. So, and after I'm done here, I'm going to have our co-president, Joe Zawicki, provide some announcements that you need to know about. So, again, on behalf of the New York State STEM Education Collaborative, we are so blessed to have such an amazing plenary panel, and to show our appreciation, I'm going to share with them a plaque that will allow them to remember this great experience. Karen Dykeman, our moderator. Dr. Anurag Pawar. Steve Mako. Sandra George. And Dr. Mary Ann Straight.
Thank you.
Goes away.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Just a couple of reminders and one notice. Session 2C, the Megatronics Education Partnership, will have to be canceled. So 2C will not be meeting this afternoon, so if you have your programs, you can take that off the list. Unfortunately, they ran into some health issues and will not be able to be here. If you are presenting today, there are tomorrow, there are two reminders. The CTLE folders are up here for the stickers for your sessions, so please make certain to get those. And if you are using a campus computer, planning to use the computer, the laptop or the desktop in the presentation room, please see me, and you'll need the login information for those devices. It's a little bit after 9. Our session starts at 9:45, and we have a wonderful opportunity and some great vendors. So please take advantage of the next half hour, 40 minutes, to get started with it. And okay, very good. And Bill has the stickers for this session. So if any of you need CTLE stickers for this session, please see Bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you.
Sure.
Thank you
Sarah,
so much.
sit down.